Welcome back, guys. Brandon here, also known as Cowboy Duke. So I have adjusted the audio. I'm actually going to adjust it just a little bit more. Just bring that down just a wee bit there. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to boost this up ever so slightly. There we go. That should be good. Hopefully I'm not too loud. Hopefully I'm not overbearing. And now the beeping of the register should not overwhelm. Today's verse is Galatians chapter 5, verse 3. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. This is from Paul's letter to Galatia. He built many churches in Galatia. It's kind of like, so I live in Texas, and there's like big metropolitan areas. There's the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's San Antonio and its surrounding areas, Houston and its surrounding cities. Austin is kind of just its own thing. We don't really talk about it. But Galatia would be like a metropolitan area. It's not like a giant country. It's more like a metropolitan area where there's like a major city and a scattering of smaller cities around it. And Paul went into Galatia to yes, I'm aware. Paul went into Galatia to build the church. Now, this was the same Paul that was once Saul that persecuted and killed Christians. So let's see here. My DIY. We're going to buy our card table. Kind of a bit... Oh, I didn't mean to put that there. Oh, good, now I can pick things up again. You come over here, you go there, you go there for now, and you go there for now. I want you... Where do I want you? You know what? You get to stand right there for now. And I want my duplicates, so I want one of you, two of you. I can get two of you, a couple of you, couple of... My hand is full. Alright, and we're just going to go straight market price on these guys. Because I need to sell 10 cards. And then I'm getting rid of this, and we are never touching individual cards again. It's a shame I can't do... Like, I can't just set this whole table to be... This whole table is market price, yes. Should actually probably keep that one. That's one that's worth a couple bucks, but... Alright, cool. So all that's set up. We can open up. We're open. Come on in. But yes, Paul wrote a number of letters in the New Testament to the Ephesians, the Philippians, Colossians, Galatia. Forgive me, I'm thirsty, so I have milk to drink. I am a milk drinker. But what that verse entails us, in fact, let me just, let me sell this, and 31 bucks is your change. I tried to key that in like it was a credit card transaction. That's funny. Let me pop over here real quick so I can pull up the verse. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free. So one of the things that Paul taught was that I cannot think and do numbers at the same time for some reason. I guess I'm particularly tired. One of the things that separates Christianity from all other religions, all religions kind of fall under a similar aspect, like a similar idea. in that I don't actually have any more of those boxes. I need to... Why do they do this? They always buy a bunch of, you know, we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that. And that's good. I want to get a couple boxes of these. One of the things that separates Christianity from all other religions is all other religions are based on works. So, like, you have to do something to either earn or maintain your salvation in every other religion that exists. In Christianity, we believe in what's known as divine accomplishment. This is, you've done nothing, Jesus did everything. All you have to do is accept the gift of salvation. You, sir, are a stinky man. We do not allow the stinkies to be in the store at this time. And so, I just had a major brain fart. You can tell that I do these basically in one take. I don't do a bunch of extra stuff. I don't do a bunch of editing and stuff like that. I believe that you should see the struggles of YouTubers. You shouldn't see perfectly designed videos. Like, YouTubers should not be afraid. People who make YouTube videos, content creators, should not be afraid of showing their imperfections and their faults. The fact that so many people are like, I have to show only the best and most pristine videos and things that I make. It's not how the world works. Dang, that guy just took out that whole stock. Hang on to that empty box for a minute. Kick that over. See, I love you, sir. I love you. You are what makes my business work. Alright, let's see what this guy wants. You want to sell me a holograph. A Horizon. Will you take $7? I know you won't. You'll get close though. What about $7.25? Would you accept $7.25? No, you want market. Alright, I'll give you market. I can always up the price later. If I go back to selling individual cards, which is highly unlikely. I just want to sell these 10 and then be done with it. So Jesus paid the sin debt, as it's written in Romans. For it is written in Romans, the wages of sin is death. So either you have to die paying for your sins, or someone else does. And this is what was shown in the Old Testament with sacrifice, ritualistic sacrifice. Not people. We're not Baal worshippers. We're God worshippers. And God said you must slaughter an innocent animal, and its blood will help pay for your sin. Now, this wasn't a totality thing. This was a temporary thing. This was to set them apart from the other religious peoples who... Many religions at the time believed in child sacrifice. So they would sacrifice children, babies, whatever would work to appease their so-called gods. We've got one card left to sell. And someone's hanging on to one. Because I've got one left over there. That means one of those two over there have a card on them, and then they sit down to play a game. These boxes sell so fast. Alright, let's grab you, and let's top you off. I do like how all the boxes close up between save and load. Okay, so that's the last of those cards. She's got the last one. Alright, 7.76, 3/4, and a penny. There you go. And, oops, we need to, what is it, C boxes it up? Yep, and then, no, C and C again. There we go. And we will hopefully never see another card table ever again. If I have anything to do with it, we will never see another card table ever again. But yes, that is the essence of Christianity right there, is that Jesus, the Son of God, who is God, in the Old Testament he was known as the Angel of the Lord. So anytime you would see like capital A, Angel of the Lord, that was Jesus before he set foot on before he came down here to fulfill his purpose as the perfect sacrifice for our sins. And what Paul was doing was, in the letter in Galatians, he had started a multitude of churches. And the Judaizers, that would be Jews that were focused on legalism, the fact that you can gain You can gain salvation, but only through appeasement of rules. You have to do what you are told, exactly as you are told, and if you fail to do this, you will be punished. Much like Rolf used to punish Double D and Ed, Ed and Eddie. We shall get the hat of discipline. If you remember that reference, you get a kudos point. You get a cookie from me. If not, look it up on YouTube. Look up the hat of discipline. This is the stuff that we used to watch as kids. Now, I'm level 9. I think I can hire a stalker now. Let me see here. Go recruit. No, I need to be level 10. And what I want to do is I want to hold out to level 15. That way I can have Terrence here run the register for me. Because I can stalk better and faster than our fated employee. But, oh, we have a Stinky somewhere. How did you get in here? You know, I'm going to actually have to... I want to switch you around to... we'll put you here. Yes. Yes, that is good. That is good. I can see everyone that walks in now. Probably after today, after we make some more sales, there is a thing that we can get that will make fighting the Stinkies more easily, for they are our enemy. So to go back to Jesus, we'll come back to that. Paul had gone to Galatia, which was like a metropolitan area. It was a large territory. And he started a number of churches. And I believe it was Timothy that was running one of the churches in Galatia. Although I could be mistaken. I've just recently started getting back into reading my Bible regularly, so I'm trying to recall, like, I am all over the place in my Bible. At church, we're reading from Galatians, we're also reading from Mark, we're also reading from, I think we read from Ephesians the other day, and then I've read 1st and 2nd Timothy, Philemon, and I was just going to start Titus today. So, if I had a recommendation, like if you wanted to read the Bible, where to start? Start in the Gospel of John, because that gives you the basic essence of who Jesus is and why he did what he did. John is really good about explaining that. He explains the humanity of Jesus, not only his divinity, but his humanity. Anyway, so Paul started a number of churches in Galatia. And the Judaizers, the ones that are bound to legalism, which is a form of religious rule keeping. So they say, like, for example, there were 613 Jewish laws that you had to keep, and if you failed at any one of them, you weren't good enough. And with there being 613 of them, it was real easy to not be good enough. So one of the ones that they were trying to do, like what they would say is, it's like, oh yes, it's true what Paul said. Grace, like, you get salvation by faith in the grace of God alone, but also, and it was that but also. And Paul spent a fair amount of time explaining this to the Galatians. And when the Judaizers came in and started offering their options of legalism upon them, they welcomed it as well. And the book of Galatians is actually a letter that Paul writes to them going, hey, when I was there, y'all were doing so great. You were so willing to accept the gospel as it was. It's like, as I had told it to you, as is the truth, which is freedom, liberty and freedom. You are free to come in here. Like, you are, say come in here. You are free to call upon the Lord yourself. You didn't have to go through a priest or anyone. We have an advocate to God now, and that's Jesus Christ. We can go straight to the big guy. We don't have to have a priest. We don't have to have anyone like that. Jesus is our mediator. And they went with these ideals because it was very similar to Judaism at the time, which is very legalistic. It was very simple. Like, one of the legalistic things that they had to do consistency was, like, every male that was born had to be circumcised within, I think, 30 days of their birth. They had to be circumcised. It was either 30 days or 3 months, I forget which. Hey, we actually made a profit today, $227. But there was also, like, the keeping of the Sabbath. And keeping of the Sabbath, or before we get into that, let's go to DIY, AutoScent. This is going to help us fight the stinkies. We're going to put you right here. So the moment they walk in the door, actually need you to go, actually you'll go in there. So he won't get hit because, of course, it wasn't on in time for him to get hit. But that'll do at least half a job's worth. We need a second one to actually fulfill it. Ooh boy, look at all that stuff. But the rule of the Sabbath was every seventh day. Because in the Ten Commandments, it was remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And what Jesus later explained in the New Testament was the Sabbath was made for man, not man was made for the Sabbath. Which means the day of rest was for you to rest, obviously, and recover from all the work you have done, and to spend time with God. That is what it was designed for. That is what its purpose was. But the Jews kind of took it a step further than necessary. Which is not really their fault. They're just... well, it is their fault. But it just kind of is the way things were. And so what Paul was telling them was, hey guys, you don't have to worry about all of these. Oh yeah, I don't have those up against the wall. I need to move those. Back them up against the wall. Alright. You want to sell me a card. I might be interested. But, for example, every 7th day was a day of rest. You were to do no work. And they were very specific on that no work. So, like, let's see, what are you offering? You're asking for, you know what? I will give you $1.75. Will you take $1.75? You will, thank you. 7th day. You see this in some Christian denominations like Seventh-day Advent. They keep the Sabbath. The problem is when you bound yourself, if you claim to be a Christian, you are no longer bound to the law. So if you're no longer bound to the law, why do you try to keep the laws? Because if you choose to try and keep the laws, you will be bound by them, and they are a heavy burden and a heavy yoke. Now, a yoke is something that was used for livestock to pull plows and wagons and things of this nature. You get two equally sized oxen or cows or whatever to move something, and the yoke was supposed to help them, share the burden so that no one animal did all the work. And what Jesus said is, yoke up with me, not with legalism, which you will fail to keep. Instead, yoke up with me, he who is burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you a light. Like my yoke is, what is it? My yoke is easy and my burden is light, or something to that effect. Basically, you don't have to work for your salvation. I've already done the work. You just need to accept the gift that it is. And so when you have these Judaizers, or it's specifically the Judaizers in Galatians that Paul is speaking about. But these are basically law keepers that want you to be held to the law because they're held to the law. And if they have to suffer, you have to suffer, because that's the only way it's fair, right? Now what I could do is, okay, so that's on. I don't like how they walk through that, but it is what it is. What was I saying? So, Sabbath day. So, like, it is a day of rest and reverence. That's what it was designed for. You to recover from your week, which everyone should, have a day of rest. That's a good thing to have. But don't let it be a limitation on yourself. Can you take $3? You will? Awesome. So, don't let the rule hold you back and prevent you from doing things. And Jesus actually gave an example of this. He said, if it is the Sabbath and you are not allowed to work and one of your sheep falls into a ditch, what are you going to do? And the Pharisees and Sadducees were kind of like, it's like, yeah, buddy, what do you do if you're not allowed to work, but your sheep falls into a ditch? It would be classified as work to get them out of the ditch and carry them home. It was like they took all the rules. They added rules that were unnecessary. They added rules to, because what these were designed to do was to show that they were different from the rest of the peoples in the world. Not so much to isolate them, but to show that they were God's chosen people. And the problem is they let it get to their heads, and they took it too far. Oh, my sinuses have been giving me trouble all day today. But that is the main thing, is that the rules of the Bible, we're no longer held to them. We're no longer required to keep them. They're still good to keep. Like, the Ten Commandments are still good. Like, you know, God is the Lord your God. Put no other gods before you. This is still a good rule of thumb. Don't worship other gods because, you know, they're dead gods or they're demons or, you know, the term dead god meaning that they are useless. They don't actually exist. They're just a figment of your imagination. Or they're demons masquerading as God, trying to... This guy's going to buy like 10 of these things. Eight. That was close. Now I have to... I only have... I'm going to have to get more. I don't have enough. I can't keep enough in stock. But the main thing is Jesus preached that, you know, he was the one that could, like, how it works is Jesus came to be the perfect sacrifice, to fulfill the laws that we couldn't. And that's actually an Old Testament prophecy that was made. When Abraham and God, or no, it wasn't Abraham and God, it was Moses and God, I think. What did you want? Will you take $1.75? You will, thank you. I'm trying to remember all the biblical history. There was a covenant made. I want to say it was between Abraham and God, but it could have been Moses and God. I can't remember which. Anyway, a covenant was made, and animals were sacrificed. And how you did covenants back in the day was you made a path of blood. And the two would walk through the path of blood. They would make a covenant, or they would make a covenant, and they would walk through the path of blood. And basically, it was like whoever breaks the covenant would basically be treated as these slain animals were. And what happens is that when the covenant was made, it was basically if we, the humans, fail to fulfill our promise to you and keep the laws, we should die for it. And God was like, cool, and then put a deep sleep on him and God walked through the blood himself, basically saying, don't worry, I got this. It would only take some time for it's quoted as saying, it's written as saying, until the fullness of time had come. There's a reason why Jesus came during arguably the height of the Roman Empire. It had stretched from all the way from the UK down to Africa, over into Asia, and up into Russia. I will buy this for 3 cents. I will give you the 3 pennies. Anyways. That took me off. Oh boy. God had this plan from the beginning. And when you read in Genesis chapter 3, it's Adam and Eve are there, and the serpent convinces Eve to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And they openly defying God's commandment of to not eat the fruit of this tree. Justifiable punishment would have been destruction, and instead he showed mercy. And this is why we talk about God being both just and merciful. Adam and Eve deserved straight up death, and instead God had mercy on them because he had a plan from the very beginning. Let's see, will you take $2? $2? Hooray. He knew that we humans wouldn't be able to keep the rules and the laws. We should still try, but we shouldn't be limited by them is the thing. We shouldn't make it to where, like, They prevent us from, actually doing the good work and doing, God's will. So that's the main thing that it gets on. And Paul was basically explaining to the Galatians, look, you are under the new covenant made by Jesus Christ. All you have to do is accept his gift of salvation by having faith that he is God and has the authority to pay for your sins and wipe them away. And that's it. That's literally it. No further work is required on your part. And people just can't seem to understand that. Like, I got a buddy of mine, he always feels bad asking me for money. And I continuously tell him, I go, look, you're my friend. You're in a tough spot right now. I too used to be in a tough spot at one time. I'm technically still in a tough spot, but I have a better life situation than him. So I tell him, hey, buddy, if you need $20 for gas or for food, just ask. I'm not going to criticize you. Like, I'm not going to belittle you for saying, hey, buddy, can I please? Because that would make me a bad friend. If he came to me with a genuine need and said, hey, I need help. And I said, you're on your own. No, that's not what friends do. Friends help each other out. And if all I can do is give him a couple bucks to make life a little bit more bearable for him, then that's what I'll do. It's a small price to pay. And he is ever gracious. He really is. He really, truly is gracious of what I do for him. And I never hold it above his head. Because then I'm not actually being, charitable. Alright, so we got those set. Let's move on to the next day. And that's 32 minutes. And I did a lot of preaching. I actually did better on this episode, I think. I've been watching the audio mixer on OBS, and I peaked out a couple of times, so I'll have to check the video and edit when I'm editing it to make sure that it's not stupid loud on my end. But hopefully the game sounds weren't overbearing and overwhelming. I think I got that squared away. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope I've given you something valuable to think about, or at least something of worth. God bless. Say your prayers. Read your Bible. And toodles.